Then, I explained our vision for the cabin, how we plan to use it as a vacation home and rent it out when we weren't there. I shared some of the financial projections, showing how this property was an important part of our retirement strategy. Bob and Linda seemed to understand, much to my relief. They admitted that they had gotten carried away with the idea of mountain living without fully considering the practicalities. Linda confessed that the idea had been more of a fantasy than a real plan, sparked by their recent struggles with the upkeep of their current home. Tom, however, was visibly upset. He accused us of being selfish and reminded us of all the times his parents had helped us. He brought up the down payment gift for our first house, arguing that we owed it to the family to share our success. The conversation quickly became heated, with Tom raising his voice and Martin trying to calm him down. Eventually, Tom stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. After Tom left, we had a more productive discussion with Bob and Linda. They apologized for the misunderstanding and for discussing their plans with the extended family before talking to us. We agreed on a compromise. They could use the cabin for extended vacations a few times a year, but it would remain our property. They seemed genuinely excited about the prospect of regular mountain getaways without the responsibility of full-time residence. Everything seemed resolved, and Martin and I felt relieved. We spent the next week feeling like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders. We even started making plans for our first family vacation at the cabin, thinking about which weeks would work best for everyone. However, our relief was short-lived. About a week after our dinner, we received a call from Linda. Her voice was shaky as she told us that Tom had been bad-mouthing us to the entire extended family. Apparently, he had called several relatives, painting us as greedy and ungrateful. He claimed that we were denying his parents a comfortable retirement, and that we owed them the cabin because of their previous financial help. This has created a rift in the family, with some relatives taking Tom's side and others supporting our decision. We've received several angry messages from cousins and aunts, accusing us of being selfish and forgetting where we came from. Others have reached out to express their support, but the family is clearly divided. Martin is particularly hurt by his brother's actions. He feels torn between loyalty to us and his family. I can see the stress wearing on him. He's been quieter than usual and having trouble sleeping. He's even started to question whether we made the right decision, which has led to some tense moments between us. We're now facing not just the cabin issue, but a full-blown family crisis. The property that was supposed to bring us joy has become a source of stress and family strife. Martin and I are united in our decision, but we're unsure how to proceed without causing further damage to family relationships. We're considering taking a break from family gatherings until things cool down, but we're worried this might make the situation worse. We don't want to give the impression that we're choosing the cabin over family, but we also need some space to process everything that's happened. I feel guilty for being the catalyst of this family drama, even though I know I didn't do anything wrong. The cabin renovation that once brought me so much joy now fills me with a sense of dread. I find myself second-guessing every decision we've made, wondering if there was a way we could have avoided all this pain. How do we navigate this new development? Should we confront Tom about his behavior, or is it better to let things blow over? How can we repair relationships with family members who've turned against us without compromising our decision about the cabin? Any advice on handling family conflicts would be greatly appreciated. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the situation has taken several unexpected turns. I apologize for the delay in updating, but things have been chaotic, to say the least. Shortly after my last post, we discovered that Tom had done more than just badmouth us to the family. We received an alert from our security system about unexpected activity at the cabin. At first, we thought it might be a false alarm or maybe an animal had triggered the motion sensors. But when we checked the security camera footage, we were shocked to see Tom entering the cabin with a duffel bag. Martin and I immediately dropped everything and drove up to the cabin, unsure of what we'd find. The 3-hour drive was tense, with both of us cycling through emotions of anger, concern, and disbelief. When we arrived, we found Tom's car parked in the driveway, confirming our fears. We entered the cabin to find Tom lounging on the couch, acting as if he had every right to be there. The scene that greeted us was worse than we could have imagined. In the week he had apparently been staying there, Tom had managed to cause significant damage to the property. The beautiful hardwood floors I had carefully restored were scratched and stained. Several pieces of furniture were broken, including an antique rocking chair that had belonged to my grandmother. The kitchen was a disaster, with dirty dishes piled high and food left to rot on the counters. But the worst was yet to come. Tom had apparently decided to do some renovations of his own. He had knocked down a portion of a wall, claiming he was trying to open up the space. This amateur demolition had not only ruined the aesthetics but had also caused some plumbing issues, resulting in water damage to the floor and walls. Confronted with the evidence of his destructive behavior, Tom initially tried to justify his actions. He claimed that since we were being selfish with the cabin, he had a right to use it as he saw fit. He argued that as family, he should have free access to the property. When we pointed out that he had essentially broken in and vandalized our home, he became defensive and aggressive. The argument that ensued was ugly. Years of pent-up resentment and sibling rivalry came pouring out. Tom accused Martin of always being the golden child and me of turning his brother against the family. Martin, usually the calm one, lost his temper and threatened to call the police. It was at this point that Tom's bravado crumbled. He broke down, admitting that he had lost his job again and had nowhere else to go. He said he felt like a failure compared to Martin and me, and the cabin had become a symbol of everything he couldn't achieve. While I felt a twinge of sympathy, it didn't excuse his actions. Martin and I stepped outside to discuss our options. We were both emotional and needed a moment to clear our heads. Despite the damage and violation of our trust, Martin felt conflicted about pressing charges against his brother. Family loyalty was warring with his anger and disappointment. After a long discussion, we decided to give Tom an ultimatum. He could avoid legal consequences if he agreed to pay for the damages and seek professional help for his issues. We made it clear that this was his last chance. Any further incidents would result in legal action, family or not. To our surprise, it was Bob and Linda who stepped up at this point. When we called to inform them of the situation, they were horrified by Tom's actions. They drove up to the cabin immediately, arriving a few hours later. Seeing the damage firsthand, they were visibly shaken. In a moment that showed true parental love and responsibility, they offered to cover the cost of repairs. They also insisted that Tom move back in with them under strict conditions, including finding a job and attending therapy. It was clear that they realized they had been enabling Tom's behavior for too long and were finally ready to take a firmer stance. This incident seems to have been a wake-up call for the entire family. Many of those who had sided with Tom initially have now apologized to us after seeing the extent of his actions. The aunt who had been one of our most vocal critics called to express her regret, admitting that she had jumped to conclusions without knowing the full story. Martin and I have started the process of repairing the cabin, which is unfortunately going to delay our rental plans. The damage was extensive, and it's heartbreaking to see my hard work undone. We've had to hire professionals to fix the plumbing and structural issues, which has been a significant unexpected expense. The whole ordeal has been incredibly stressful, but it's brought Martin and me closer together. We've had long conversations about family dynamics, boundaries, and our future. We're more committed than ever to our plans for the cabin, and we're taking steps to increase security to prevent future incidents. We've installed a more sophisticated alarm system and changed all the locks. We've also decided to be more selective about who we share the cabin keys with, even among family members. It's a sad necessity, but one we feel is important to protect our investment and our peace of mind. Tom has moved back in with Bob and Linda. From what we've heard, he's started seeing a therapist and is actively job hunting. It's early days, but there seems to be a glimmer of hope that he's finally taking steps to turn his life around. We're cautiously optimistic about the future, but we're also realistic. We know that rebuilding trust with Tom and some family members will take time. For now, we're focusing on repairing our property and our relationships, one step at a time. As we move forward, we're wondering how to balance maintaining boundaries with compassion for Tom's situation. Any advice on rebuilding family relationships after such a breach of trust would be greatly appreciated. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this saga. The renovation of the cabin is finally complete. It took longer than expected and cost more than we had anticipated, but the result is even better than before. Martin and I decided to use this opportunity to make some upgrades we had been considering, turning a negative situation into a positive one. We've added a beautiful deck overlooking the lake and upgraded the kitchen appliances. In a way, this second renovation has allowed me to put my own stamp back on the place, erasing the bad memories of Tom's destruction. We've successfully listed the property for short-term rentals and have already had several bookings. The extra income is helping to offset the cost of the repairs, and we're getting great reviews from our guests. It feels good to share our special place with others who appreciate its beauty. As for family matters, things have slowly been improving. Tom has been sticking to the agreement we made. He's been seeing a therapist regularly and has managed to hold down a job for the past 4 months. It's an entry-level position at a local marketing firm, but it's a start. While our relationship with him is still strained, we can see he's making an effort to turn his life around. We've had a few brief, civil conversations with Tom at family gatherings. There's still tension, but it's no longer openly hostile. Last month, he approached us with an envelope containing a small amount of money, his first contribution towards repaying the damage he caused. It wasn't much, but the gesture meant a lot. Bob and Linda have been incredibly supportive throughout this process. They've respected our boundaries and have even started planning their own vacations instead of relying on the idea of moving into our cabin. We've hosted them for a week-long stay, and it was a pleasant experience for everyone. They seem to enjoy being guests rather than potential permanent residents. The extended family has largely moved past the drama, with most people recognizing that Tom's actions were out of line. We've attended a few family gatherings, and while there's still some tension, it's noticeably lessened. Some relatives have even reached out to apologize for their initial reactions, admitting they spoke without knowing all the facts. Martin and I have grown from this experience. We've learned the importance of clear communication and setting boundaries, even with family. We've also realized the value of standing united in the face of external pressures. Our relationship feels stronger than ever, having weathered this storm together. Looking back, I'm proud of how we handled the situation. We stood our ground without completely alienating our family. We showed compassion to Tom while still holding him accountable for his actions. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I wondered if it was worth all the stress, but I believe we made the right choices. As we move forward, we're excited about the future of our cabin. It's become not just a vacation home or an investment, but a symbol of our resilience as a couple. Every time we visit, we're reminded of the challenges we've overcome together. We're looking forward to making new, happier memories there.